this meeting this afternoon, and I'd like to begin by reminding our members and petitioners to speak directly into the microphone. We record the minutes for legal purposes, and this is the only way to pick up audio. Good afternoon again. The Historic Preservation Commission is a 9-member board appointed by the City Council and serves on a voluntary basis without compensation. The purposes of the commission are to promote the educational, cultural, economic, and general welfare of the city through the preservation and protection of buildings, sites, structures, areas, and districts of historic significance and interest, through the preservation and enhancement of local historic, architectural, archaeological, and aesthetic heritage found in the city, through the maintenance of the distinctive character of the city's historic districts, and through the promotion and enhancement of the city's historic and aesthetic attraction to tourists and visitors. I would like to take this opportunity to ask each member of the commission to introduce him or herself, and this afternoon I will start from my left and the audience right.
Kamala Broadnex.
Brian Mann.
Carol King.
Dallas Hanbury.
Thank you very much. And we will begin our proceeding this afternoon by looking at our agenda, and the chair will now entertain a motion for the approval of the minutes of the February 9, 2021 meeting.
I move we approve the February 9th minutes.
Is there a second?
Second.
All right. Is there any unreadiness? All those in favor of approving the minutes of the February 9, 2021 minutes as written, please let it be known by a show of hands. Motion carried, Paula. Thank you very much. Proceeding with our agenda this afternoon, the preservation leadership class update. And Christian, want to provide some guidance for us on this?
I'll start with our exciting news first. We were asked by the city of Prattville if their board members might be able to attend this class virtually, which got us thinking that maybe we should ask the Historical Commission if they would share this with all of the certified local governments in the state, and they agreed. We have 5 cities who have expressed interest in attending this, just the 4 classroom classes virtually as part of their board training. So this went from a nice thing to do to kind of a big deal. So we do need each of you to sign up for a class to help, because we're going to have to monitor the chat and see if there are questions coming in from the remote locations. We know we've got people registered from the city of Birmingham, but we also may have people from Fairhope, Foley, Trussville, and Prattville, and possibly one UGA design student who's from Montgomery. So the virtual aspect of it was something we really hadn't contemplated initially. So we'll need help getting folks checked in and with some of those extra needs this year.
Okay. Now, let's look at each one of the dates we have here. March 31st, April 7, April 14, April 21st, April 28, and March 5. Carol, is there anything you want to say about your March 31st classroom where you're a co-presenter?
I put that on there to note that they are helping with the presentation, so they can't help with the other stuff.
Right. Now, we have no one listed for the April 21st classroom.
That's because I'm the speaker, and we have our architectural review board chair. That just means that no HPC member is slated as a co-presenter that day.
So,
And Chris, is anything you want to say about April 28th outside on Goldway?
We will be walking the block between Mildred and Clayton Street and looking at the renovations at Winter Place. We've got a new house constructed next to Winter Place that went through the ARB process, that the owners have said that if time allows, they would let folks come in and look at the new build. And then we'll end with some commercial properties under renovation at the corner of Goldthwaite and Clayton Street. So we're
Okay.
going to look at residential and commercial renovation and new construction and talk about the different issues, both from a review standpoint, but also issues that each of these folks have run into with financing and building issues and just their experience trying to make this work.
All right. May 5, what can our patrons expect from our Oakwood Cemetery?
That will be a tour given by Collier Neely
Yes.
and Philip Taunton. And we talked about kind of expanding it to talk about cemetery preservation issues as well this year. So, and then that class will end with a picnic dinner at Hank Williams' grave,
Okay.
which is what we did last time. It was a lot of fun.
All right. Okay. All right. Anybody has a question about anything regarding these classes, and anybody like to volunteer for something? As we've already written, we don't want anybody to feel like he or she is alone in this work.
Well, I mean, I will be at all of them.
Sure.
And Paula will be there, and Collier, and Carol and Dallas said they plan to be, I think, at most of them, if not all of them. So, but especially, I said before, I am not the HPC, so mine is not the only face they need to see, especially if if we have a virtual audience. Our reach is going statewide with this, and that's kind of a big deal. And I would like them to see who you all are, and then them say, how'd y'all pull that off? Well, let me tell you.
Let me say this, or better still, let me ask this question. How many of you have visited a cemetery? Not for a burial, but as a tourist. You visited a cemetery. Okay. How many of you been to Oakwood Cemetery? Let me tell you, do you really get a feel for the vastness of Oakwood Cemetery? Have you been to each side?
it's
Have you-
huge.
Oakwood Cemetery is vast. And when I say vast, I mean huge. And it's amazing just how huge that cemetery is. And Christian, will we get a chance that day to get a feel for the vastness? Not that we have to go over every inch, but to get a feel for the vastness of the cemetery?
I don't know. I didn't get to see the tour last time because I was coordinating the dinner at on the other side of the cemetery. So I don't know how far they walked. I think they kind of stayed up on the flat part the last time.
It was pretty much an old.
Yeah, the old, but up on the hill, so you can see. And then, of course, Hank's grave is over in the annex, so you can see the second part of Oakwood.
Right, okay. Well, one thing is for certain, and we'll get a chance to see all of this when we visit the cemetery on May 5. The part where Hank Williams is buried is very different from the old part of Oakwood Cemetery. The graves are more dispersed, and Hank Williams' part, they're more concentrated for the original part. But I would invite all of us to avail ourselves on May 5 and bring a guest to Oakwood Cemetery.
Oh, no, don't bring a guest.
Don't bring, we feel,
Unless you want to share your dinner.
Unless they want, yeah, because we have to, I mean, this is a, Dinners provided. If they want to come to the tour, they need to sign up for the class. Of course, that doesn't apply to y'all, but if you do plan to come to that last class, please let me know so we can count you for, make sure we order enough food for that.
Because they were box dinners.
Yeah, we had box,
They were not,
which is
yeah.
probably
More
going to be the
specific.
same thing given the circumstances this year. So
Yeah,
we
that's
just
true.
need to know if you're going to be there and if you're a vegetarian.
Okay, all right. Now, Christy, one final question regarding this. Since we're going to start on March 21st, give us some guidance on what we need to do to avail ourselves for that March 31st session. And March 31st is a Wednesday, I believe.
They're all on Wednesdays.
Yes.
And I need one of you to sign up for a class to help. Just tell me which date you want to come. You can come to more than one, but tell me which day that you will guarantee you'll be there to help.
To be hosted.
Because we check people in at the beginning of class because they have to attend 5 of 6 classes to graduate. You know, the first class, we're going to be handing out binders and bags. And I'm sure there will be technical difficulties just because there are always technical difficulties.
Yep.
So I just need one of you to say, I will be there on that date. So March 31 is an architectural overview of styles. April 7 is terminology and house parts, and we'll talk about different roof lines, you know, what different roof lines are and what different porches look like, kind of the details of some of the styles we looked at the week before. The 14th is on survey, so we're going to work through the state survey form and have an example. Dallas is going to field any questions about what to or not to expect from county archives, or just, you know, just issues with doing research on properties.
Yeah.
A portion of that class will be outside as well. The 21st, we're going to talk about legal framework and architectural review board, and then of course we talked about the walking tour on the 28th and Oakwood on the 5th. So. I just need a warm body to say I will be there on the 31st, the 7th, the 14th, the 21st, the 28th, or the 5th. That's all I need.
When is your suspense on that? What's your
What?
deadline?
What? I want you to tell me tonight.
That's my point. Okay.
Tonight.
Yes.
Okay, so she's raised her hand, so she gets dibs.
Christy, definitely put me down for the 28th,
Okay.
Which date would
I'll
you
do
like?
April.
I'll do
April 28th.
I'll do the 14th and the 5th because I want to see the Oakwood Cemetery.
Okay.
I want to come to all
Hang
of
on.
them. Really.
So you're going to do the 14th, and you'll be there on the 5th as well.
Yeah, but I'm going to try to make all of them. I'm going to rearrange my evening schedule
Okay.
and
That's
see can
good.
I make all of them.
Great.
Chrissy, I'll just, like I said, I'll just make all of them.
Okay.
Yeah.
And I know Carol will be there since we're at Landmarks. Brian, does any night jump out at you?
I'm looking.
And again, we will not have a regular meeting in April because of this. So,
Oh, right. April 20, that winter place things interest me. Is that what's happening on April 28th?
yes.
I'll sign up for that one. Just what time I need to be somewhere?
5:30. So I will,
Where are the classrooms located?
where what?
Classrooms. They said classroom.
Oh, they're at Old Alabama Town.
Okay.
So I think, are y'all going to put together something to send out to everyone that we can copy the board
Right, we
with the
can.
location and where to park? and-
301 Columbus Street, but, yeah.
You said
There's plenty of parking and.
You say
so.
5:45?
What?
What time did you say?
5:30?
Okay, so Chris, if you'll put me down specifically for April 28th and May 5, I'll try to make all of these. but certainly April 28 and May 5.
Okay. And if any of you would like a t-shirt, let me know what size you would like. Okay, so.
Large.
Okay, well, I'll just go down the list. Dallas, large. Dr. Bailey, do you want
Extra
a t-shirt?
large.
Extra large.
Small.
Small. Brian, large. Is that large or, I'm not gonna say it. I'm not gonna say it.
I'm trying to be funny,
Okay, and I know Carol and Collier are sending theirs over with the roster. Okay, well, great.
All right, thank you very much. Anybody got a question just burning you want to ask Christian before we
Well, I
leave?
was just going to
Yes.
sort of comment, if our next meeting is not until May, this will also be, their graduation will basically be the new business or whatever for the meeting, so,
Possibly.
okay.
The
Oh, that's
problem
right.
with that is congregating.
Right.
So we may end up doing it at the picnic.
Oh,
While we're
okay.
outside, or
I see what
mailing
you're
it.
saying. Okay.
But, so if we, I don't think we'll be able to gather that many folks here, which was the issue with pushing off the
Right.
awards as well.
That's
I don't
true.
think, because we are almost, the last list you sent me, I think had 18,
28.
28 attendees
Uh-huh.
registered.
Uh-huh.
We're only doing 25.
I think, well, we're on there over and above,
No, I mean,
you know.
attendees,
Right,
registered
okay.
attendees
Oh, okay, I
was
see
like
what you're saying, yeah.
18.
So you took out the staff and stuff, because I had put the staff and stuff in there, so that's probably about right.
No, well, the ones you comped, I counted, because they're warm
Okay.
bodies, and we have
Okay.
to space it, so.
That's true, okay.
And I've
I'll
only
look.
prepared 25.
Okay. That's fine.
Okay. Anything else regarding our leadership class? Want to direct to Christy or just want to say generally? All right. Christy, some exciting news?
Oh, I
About
started
this
with
year's
that.
class?
I started with that, saying
Okay.
that because we were asked about a virtual option, that this may end up being statewide training for other boards and commissions.
Okay, all right. 2021 awards.
I'm working on that. I'm hoping that we'll have something to announce in May with a revised application, nomination period, deadlines, and awards program, maybe aiming for October.
Okay.
Because
That'll
I
be
think
good.
that's when the Alabama Trust used to have their
Ramble thing.
annual conference, so.
But it's good to announce it in May as May Preservation
Yeah,
Month.
May,
you
since
know.
May is Preservation Month, we'll try to have something to announce then.
All right. Very good. Any question that someone would like to ask regarding the 2021 awards? Sign committee, March 1 deadline.
I have 5 applications.
Yay.
They all came in with almost no information, so I've got to do research and put the packets together. And so those will go out to the committee in the mail in the next couple of weeks or so.
Okay, we have our committee members listed here: Carol King, Brian Mann, James Long, and Richard Bailey, alternate. Any question regarding our sign committee? Any comments?
So will that be then May business? We'll go ahead and,
June. Oh, well, approving it,
okay, approve it in June, award them in, approve it in May, award them in June.
right.
Okay,
Our award dates were June and December.
right, okay.
All right. Proposed fall 2021.
Okay.
I just looked at the last list of who was on the fall and who was on the spring and rotated.
Works for me.
Okay. Other business, our bylaws. I hope everyone has had an opportunity to look at our revised bylaws, and is there any comment? Christy, you want to take the lead on this?
We made the changes regarding the digital record that we discussed last time. I added the language for legal action that James Long had suggested. You know, I would say keep in mind that if you approve bylaws, that it doesn't mean we can't change them in the future to address other issues. The real critical piece of this is related to the next item on the agenda, is that under procedures, it lays out a framework for taking public testimony in favor or opposition of a designation. Because right now it is in our city code that requires 60% of property owners to consent in writing to the designation before it can move forward, before it can even come to y'all for review. The state enabling legislation, consent is not a designation criteria. Designation criteria are, it's something is significant for history, significant persons, architecture, or archaeology. Consent is not in that. So we have to remove that from our code to be compliant with the state law so we can move forward with becoming a certified local government ourselves. So that's the real critical piece, that those changes have been reviewed by the Historical Commission. They have been sent to the mayor's office. So I think it's very important to have bylaws that reflect that we have already addressed that concern, because that's going to be a concern, I think, to have that removed. That there's still going to be a process that people can express their feelings about it, but it removes it from the designation process. And frankly, it removes you from the political part of it, because either something's going to meet the defined criteria or it's not. And city council is really in a better position to make the political decision if they decide not to designate something because a bunch of slumlords are fussing about it, which is likely what's going to happen. So
I think this will really open up the historically designated properties in the city of Montgomery, because I don't know, it had been 75% owner consent, and then it got reduced to 60% owner consent. Did anything ever get designated even under that 60%?
no, it was all done under the 75%.
So all of the historic districts and historic properties in the city of Montgomery have been, I mean, it says a lot for them, actually, that 75% wanted it. But now it is just 50% plus one have to not want it. So it's really going to open up neighborhoods like Morning View, Del Reyta,
Capitol Heights.
yeah, the rest of Capitol Heights, some West Montgomery, Line Street, Centennial Hill. Now, all of these folks can jump ahead and get historic designation.
Now, I would say, for those who are not familiar with the process, this doesn't mean we can just start magic wanding things and make them historic. So, to demonstrate that you meet that criteria, a petition for a neighborhood designation has to have a survey completed. So those Alabama Historical Commission survey forms we're going to go through in one of the classes is what needs to be prepared for each property in that proposed district, and historical research has to be done, and all of that has to be compiled, and I have to make sure it's correct, and make sure it meets the criteria before it ever makes it to you. I don't have anything that's ready. I've got surveys for South Hull that are 10 years old at this point, and one person, bless her heart, filled out a bunch of survey forms, and every gable roof in that neighborhood is listed as a hip roof. It's just they're not correct. So, I mean, there's nothing that's ready to go, but it will open the opportunity up, I think. And I did survey workshops for neighborhoods on Saturdays where we walked the streets and showed them how to fill out the forms. But because collecting the signatures has been the big stumbling block.
Right. Always has been.
And there are all sorts of notification requirements of, sending certified mail and legal notices and, notifying property owners of record as part of this. So it's not going to slip through under cover of darkness. It's going to be a long, drawn-out process, however it happens.
It's just that the importance now turns to the documentation and the meeting the criteria and historical or architectural significance, the community sense now becomes the more premier thing as opposed to getting the owner's signature.
And we have a couple of weak districts because they were allowed to come in or create districts piece by piece, and that was based solely on who they could get to sign consent forms. From a legal standpoint, they're weak because why are those rules imposed on this set of houses when they look exactly like the houses on the street a block over or 2 blocks away? Unless there's some underlying historical reason to do it. But historic plats are one way we can divide things up. These weren't done that way. These were just kind of corridors of convenience, I think. So this will help potentially clean up some things that were designated by consent in the past. Or consent is what drew the boundaries for designation, which is not the right way to do it.
Question, comments? Question, comments?
I was going to make a comment. Now I've lost there it is. Midtown Montgomery, we have McGee Estates, we have Myrtlewood and Edgewood and
Hillwood.
Hillwood, that's what I meant to say.
It's not 50 years old.
Yes, it is.
The Old Cloverdale district was created in 1996. My own house in Old Cloverdale was built in 1925. So that meant at the beginning of Old Cloverdale, my house was 71 years old, of the Old Cloverdale Association, and the designation, not the association, the designation of the district. My house was 71 years old. Now, the people wisely saw the benefit to creating a historic district, and it's worked out very well for our neighborhood. Home values are secure, and there's consistency and renovation and curb appeal, all that, and thanks be unto the city for all you do to make sure the regulations are followed. But, when I bought my house, I needed to come to the city to make some applications. And I bought my house 5 years ago. And all I heard was about the hysterical association and the hysterical this and that. There is a misconception about being in a historic district that I'm afraid these midtown neighborhoods that are about to be the same age, as my house was when it became historically designated in the district. They're about to be there. The houses in Edgewood and Hillwood are, they're, some of them are 1950s. Well, they're coming up pretty soon on 70 years old.
You only have to be 50.
I know, but it's already high time that these neighborhoods had some kind of protection. And I think there's a misconception as to the negatives outweigh the positives, that you're restricting your property, that you're putting a burden on yourself. But, if you just look at the home values in a Cloverdale Idlewild or a Cloverdale or somewhere that's historically designated, it's just well worth it. I wish that there were people from those areas. I don't believe they are that are involved in the seminar. For instance, are they? It's mainly from designated areas, right?
I'm not sure. Now, Sandra Nickel has signed up all of her employees, her realtors, and is it just the realtors or office people or?
Yeah, she's got four of her staff, and then, well, some of the historic neighborhoods did send, but then there are a lot of individuals too.
And you know that I've got a new. I need to go by and see if it's changed. But the new poster child, the old poster child for designation was that house on Glen Groton. It's a little 1920s stucco, or kind of Tudery with stucco and brick, and they built a 2-story metal addition on the side of it, and it's just off the corner of Bankhead and Glen Groton or Thomas.
Is that the one that's like right by the ditch?
I don't know if it's
no.
yeah.
Drainage ditch?
Come on,
Yeah,
It looks very
Edgewood.
strange.
it does.
And
we
there's
got
apartments behind it?
And we got
Yeah.
lots of calls about that. And we said, we're sorry, it's outside the historic district and it meets all the setbacks. And the building department measured it and it met building code, and nothing can be done. The latest one, there's a house being built on Allendale that appears to be all metal. The siding's metal, the roof's metal. Not sure if the metal is supposed to be a backing for a brick veneer. Haven't been back by lately. Getting lots of calls about that.
Well, you know, if you look through the real estate listings for vacant lots in Midtown, Allendale's quite popular for vacant lots. People seem to tear down, and homes.
Myrtlewood's the same way.
Right, Myrtlewood. To have those lots are desirable, and there's some lovely homes that have probably met the wrecking ball, just because the lots are desired.
Well, designation would also monitor new home design as well. So making sure it was compatible with the other architectural styles too. So that would be
It
a
would be
plus from that end.
Dallas.
Yes, sir.
I know you're the archivist, but aren't there digital records of the plats of these areas that I'm speaking of? Like they're digitized?
I don't.
It's in most.
I want to say our digitized records are back to the mid to early 1960s, but for those that are not digitized, there are the paper, the books, the plats.
Abstract.
It would be interesting to see how many phases there are to these neighborhoods I've mentioned, and if any of them might be candidates for historic districts based upon the plat, because I don't know if you would have gone in and just created one plat for a Hillwood or for a Edgewood or Amiga Estates. There were probably multiple plats.
Oh, most definitely multiple plats. I mean, Hillwood is like 3 different neighborhoods, really. You know, you've got Old Hillwood, New Hillwood, and then the townhouse part of Hillwood.
I just know Old Cloverdale's got some gigantic plat that goes all the way to Bull Tier, and there's really only 2 plats to our neighborhood, original plats, my neighborhood.
Yeah, but Hillwood's pretty unique in that aspect. I mean, we see a lot of neighborhoods that have multiple plats and are replatted.
Well, you know, Capitol Heights is the same way. They were started by land development companies that bought big chunks of land on the edge of town and started dividing it up. So, but even I've been talking to someone over in Dalreda, and who's interested in designating their street. I'm like, can't do that. But looking at the plat, it's like 2 blocks by 2 blocks square that was a re-subdivision of something. So it makes its own little, where they changed the pattern of development, that's kind of a discrete boundary because they changed the pattern of development. So that tells a different story. You know, the policy has been that the process needs to be initiated by the neighborhoods, that, you know, I'm not going in with my survey forms and just running rampant through the city. A good chunk of West Montgomery's been surveyed now, as well as Centennial Hill, through
Lime
the Paleo West survey that was completed last year. So we have a lot of documentation. Some of that I think is going to take some thinking. This actually falls to y'all, since you come up with guidelines for the ARB, whether or not we need to investigate doing conservation type districts in some of these areas, which would look at major developments, demolitions, new constructions, and not so much whether or not they're changing out windows and doors, because for some of those property values, it would be cost prohibitive to keep up with the standards of some of the material standards that would be required under ARB review. And I don't want to say they should be treated, there's an economic reality to asking someone to put, $40,000 worth of windows in a house that's worth $30,000, and we can't do it. We can't ask someone to do that. So that's something to consider. I call it preservation light. Conservation districts might be a way to ensure that if there is new development in some of these areas, it's compatible with what's there.
See, Hillwood has a lot of, even in the old part, I don't know what the term is, infill or whatever, where the original ranches are gone. There's a lot of newer stuff even in the old part of Hillwood.
And that's what we'd look at. I've got
Maybe not a lot, but a fair amount.
I've got the building data on my map layers, so when I pull up the property data in our map system, I can see what all the construction dates are. And if there are too many of those infills, then we need to have at least 50% of the properties contributing to a district to create a district.
It might be close.
So anyway, all that to say is that with this change, with changes in the code, it's not as though something is magically going to happen and all of a sudden all these properties are going to be historic, because they're not. Because they're going to have to be surveyed. And if they're surveyed by the residents, then I'm going to have to go out and recheck all of their work, and there's only one me. If we become a CLG, we might have access to grant funds that would pay for some of those surveys, but again, we would want the neighborhood to initiate that and say, we want this, we're willing to put up the 20% match for the consultant, and away we go. So it's not going to, it will drastically change how we can look at doing this, because right now it seems pretty onerous, but it's not going to mean that half of Montgomery is suddenly historic. I don't want to keep up with half of Montgomery being historic, quite frankly. So,
Okay.
so that's really the big piece about how to handle if we take consent out of the code. Putting a process in here about addressing owner objection is how we're proposing to address that issue.
Okay.
I had on Article 3 in the meetings on page 4, we'd just been talking about on 4, the committees. 4B, awards, it says responsible for annual awards program to be held annually for Historic Preservation Month. Well, this year we're going to not do it on historic, so
Well,
maybe we should take that out or not.
We could just say to be held
Annual
annually.
meeting.
Yeah.
And shoot for that. That's more like policy and not bylaws.
Yeah, well, we're we're having some issues, but yeah, we just should be held annually.
Will the chair entertain a motion?
Yes.
Are we ready? Okay. I move that we approve the revised bylaws of the Historic Preservation Committee.
Do you want to make that as amended?
As amended,
on
yeah.
Article 3?
As amended, Article 3, 4B, to delete National Historic Preservation Month.
Okay, is everybody clear on the change, proposed change? Okay. All those in favor of,
Do you have a second?
Second.
second?
I'll second it.
Okay, all right. Moving proper second. Any unreadness regarding that? Everybody's clear? Okay, good. All those in favor of adopting our bylaws as amended, please let it be known by a show of hands.
Excuse me, Dr. Bell, can we do this?
Yes,
Do we have enough people?
Yeah, you got a quorum.
yes.
Oh, we got a, okay,
Yeah.
cool, okay.
Okay. Man, you raising your hand?
I'm going to abstain. I haven't had enough time to thoroughly review the,
Then they're not adopted. We'll have to carry that over until.
Right.
I just
May.
can't, I mean, I'm a lawyer. I ought to look at it more thoroughly than just having glanced at it. And I've just been overwhelmed past month, so
Okay.
I'd have to abstain.
All right, no problem. Motion failed. CLG update?
The code changes have been sent to the mayor's office. I've not heard anything. But it is, my part's moving forward, so I'm not sure what they're doing with it, but, so that's where we are with that. I was hoping we would have I think that the code changes may end up going to council before you all can act on the bylaws, but we'll just see if that delays anything.
I mean, is there a need to do this tonight? Are we about to miss out on something with the city?
Well, it was like icing on the cake for the
Well,
CLG.
there has been concern in years past about removing that provision, which is part of what has stopped our CLG.
Are we talking about the big, long list of changes that you presented the last meeting, or are we talking about one change?
Well, the only thing that's changed since the last meeting was the electronic communications and James Long's insertion on legal action. Everything else is the same.
Okay.
But the critical piece was how this body is going to handle the designation process, because we have to remove consent from the city code. And this was just to
Does
demonstrate.
somebody have a copy of this with them tonight? I looked around my office for my copy and I could not locate it.
The bylaws?
If you'll bear with me a minute, I can look at it.
So basically, the important piece, most of this was corrections, and we went through this last month. The 50% plus one of property owners in a proposed historic district object to the designation in writing. Public
Is
testimony
it just
will
the
be
red
heard.
lines, Christie?
Yeah. There has been pushback from council in years past about removing that provision from the code, which has stopped the process. We have to remove that provision from the code, the consent provision, to become a certified local government. Nobody else has it in their code, and they seem to manage just fine.
Anymore.
So that was just to
Yeah.
show that, yeah, we know you might be concerned about that, but look, we've put a process in our bylaws and we're ready to roll.
Because we are the designating body.
Well, but
Well, we are the nominating.
You
designating
recommend,
body. Yeah, we are the
yes.
recommending body, you're right.
So, I mean, that's why I'm saying that you don't have the authority to designate.
No.
You make recommendations based on whether or not a petition meets
Yeah.
the criteria for designation.
Right.
Doesn't meet, yes or no, not how many signatures were collected, does everybody on the block consent? That's not the issue.
Right.
That removes that from, I mean, you can have a hearing to hear the reasons and see if there's a compelling reason why it shouldn't move forward. But this body's job is to recommend to council that yes, the proposal meets the criteria set forth in our code, and then if they want to make a political decision about it and not do it, then that's their call. They're elected. They get to do that.
The city council.
They get to do that.
Yeah.
They get to be more arbitrary and capricious than city boards do, because they have constituents to answer to, and you don't. You have criteria to follow.
Right.
So that's the big piece. But that was in at the last meeting as well, so that was there before.
But that is what brings us in compliance with the requirements for CLG.
It is one of several things that we needed to do to bring us into compliance. We also, that someone had added the appeal to city council, and ARB is quasi-judicial, so appeals of decisions need to go to circuit court and not to city council. They may not like that either. And there was one other thing that we absolutely had to do, and I don't remember what it was right now. 3 things. It was designed by consent, appeals, and something else that were the three big things that needed to be fixed.
Okay, anything else? Anybody has a question specifically pointed, burning, that you want to ask Chris about the CLG update? Anyone? Burning question? Oh man, I see your eyes burning.
I've reviewed the bylaws. If we could go back to that, the changes. Are we still on it, or?
No, we'll come back to that at our next meeting. Yes. Yeah. Okay. Anything else? Chris, you have any parting words?
Well, Brian, were you saying that you're prepared to take action if we revisit that?
I am. It's not off the wall, the changes, but I do have a question about it when we get back to it.
Well,
if you need more time.
Oh, I'm done. In my day-to-day life as a lawyer, there's a million things that would only take 5 minutes to do, but I can't do all million of them.
So what's your question?
Why did Mr. Long think it necessary to introduce a restriction on the commission's ability to pursue legal action? And has this body ever pursued legal action before? And if it did, who would represent it? The city attorney's office, or what? What was the motivation? If he's not here, did he communicate to you or anybody else why he thought inserting this legal action paragraph was necessary?
I could envision, I don't know that it would happen, but if someone wanted to tear something down that was just so egregious that the HPC decided that they, in their capacity, under their powers and duties of representing the historic interest of the city, filed suit or an injunction or something against someone.
so it gives the commission a right to. Is that what this
It looks more like a limitation to me, but
shall be? Violation?
it looks like
methodology.
it looks like surplus language, because how can this body act except by majority vote in the form of a motion or a resolution? I don't think anybody on the commission's empowered to go exercise legal action on their own, are they?
No.
Maybe just clarification.
The item before it says an affirmative vote of the majority, 5 of the board membership, 9, is required to take any action on request before the board.
Well, as I said, adopting them doesn't mean that they have to stay unaltered, because there were some other issues as well. So, I mean, you could move to adopt without that provision until we can discuss it with
I would
Mr.
really
Long.
like that, because I have some other things I'd like to write up, and I hopefully will have the time to do it before the next board meeting. So, may I, Mr. Chairman, make a motion?
Sure.
Having reviewed the proposed changes to the bylaws of this body before me tonight, I would like to move that we accept the bylaws as submitted, with the exception of number 8, legal action, until I have an opportunity to speak with Mr. Long and hear from him as to his thought process for including that, knowing that we will revisit the issue, because I also have some changes to the bylaws I'd like to make. Move.
Could you also add the amending Article 3 to delete Preservation Month that was part of the first motion? Because we need to delete that as well.
I move that I amend my motion to include that deletion and substitution as well. I can't recall exactly what she said, but it's recorded.
If you like, since the motion failed, and I'm not asking you to withdraw your motion, but we will come to it next week anyway. And if you,
I think she said there was some kind of impetus for getting this done tonight.
I really would like you to do it tonight.
Oh, okay. All right. Gotcha. All right.
Because the city council meeting or something. That's why I asked her if the delay would cause a problem.
I would like the city council to know, if I have to go and explain to them why the changes need to be made to our laws, to say, this is one of them, and if y'all are concerned about it, the HPC has already adopted as part of their bylaws a procedure for handling this provision that we can no longer have in our code. That's what I want to be able to have in my hand when that time comes.
Okay.
And that time could be next week, and it could be 6 months from now. I don't know. But I would like to have that to say that you all are on the ball and we're ready to go, and just tell the council they need to do what they need to do, and we can all get back to business.
Okay. Your motion's still on the floor.
Yes.
Is there a second for Commissioner Mann's motion?
Second.
All right, second. Any unreadiness? All those in favor, let it be known by a show of hands. Motion carried. Thank you very much. And Christy, thank you also for bringing that to our attention, the timeliness of what we have at hand. Any other points we'd like to make? Carol, you want to say something
Yeah, I
about?
just wanted, everyone has a flyer for the next Renovators Open House, which will be Thursday, March the 25th. We're going to revisit a house in the Garden District, 1616 South Perry Street. We looked at almost 2 years ago, and Christina and Spencer Caden are inviting us back to let us see, how far they've gone, as well as touring their garage dependency in the back too. So they've also at this point bought a piece of property and are living in a historic house to the south of this one as well. So they're kind of made a commitment to that block of South Perry Street. So please take that and join us if you can. If it's free to Landmarks members, and you can become a member there if you want to. So it's going to be fun.
I would
Question,
encourage
Carol.
you, if you are interested in this home and have Instagram, to follow them on the 1616 house. That is the 1616 house on Instagram. They have an account where they are methodically photographing and posting videos of the renovation process, and it's quite interesting, and they highlight the contractors who do all the work, such as the plaster people, the window people, and they also go through in just intricate detail the processes they use to restore the wood, to strip the paint. It's a real learning experience to follow their Instagram account.
Okay. Anybody else has anything going on you'd like to bring to our attention? Okay. Again, we'd like to thank Mr. Mike Mann for taking time from his busy schedule, along with Ms. Paula Wade and Ms. Christy Anderson. We appreciate it very much. There being no further business, meetings hereby adjourned.